Well, Highguard is finally out, and let's just say the reception hasn't exactly been glowing. I've been playing for a couple hours now, and I definitely have some opinions. And honestly, I went in with a genuinely positive mindset. When I saw the first trailer, I actually really liked what I saw. Sure, it looked a bit generic, but I thought it had some potential on paper. Here's the thing though, I still think it has potential, but right now, there are some glaring issues that make me not want to play it beyond my first few hours, and we really need to talk about that. First off, let's strip away the reviews and look at what Highguard is actually trying to be. It's marketed as a PvP raid shooter, and the loop is honestly kind of interesting. You got your Wardens, the heroes, and your goal is to basically gather this thing called Shieldbreaker. Once you have that, you siege the enemy base, break their defenses, and plant bombs. Feels less like traditional shooter and more like a MOBA mixed with Destiny. There's some pretty cool mechanics here, so conceptually, I'm on board. The loop kind of makes sense, and honestly, during the first 20 minutes, I was thinking, hey, this might actually be good. I have to give some credit where it's due, because there are definitely some good bones here. I started with the tutorial. It is surprisingly comprehensive. I feel like most competitive shooters just kind of throw you at the wolves, but this one actually explains the economy and the objectives quite properly. And then the gunplay, it feels pretty sticky. It's quite snappy. The sound design has that punchy, bass-heavy feedback you want. Is it on the level of Apex Legends or Destiny 2? No, not quite there, but it is good enough in my opinion. Then even the skins look surprisingly polished for a launch title. You can tell that the art team kind of did their job, what they were given here. So if I was judging this solely based on my tutorial experience, I'd say we had a winner, but then I left the tutorial. Once you get in the real match, cracks really start to show. The map layout feels completely empty. They keep calling this a raid shooter, so my brain is expecting PvE elements, maybe some loot goblins, back of mobs, or boss fights for buffs, but there's nothing. It's just open space, and that kind of brings me to the movement. Coming from the people that said that they made Apex Legends, I expect some fluidity, wall bounces, slides, something to traverse empty space, but the movement feels surprisingly heavy. Combined with the time to kill, that's pretty unforgiving. If you get caught in the open, it leads to this frustrating experience where you just run for 40 seconds, get melted in a half second, and then wait to respawn. Definitely makes the game feel a bit lifeless. The pacing is just kind of off. If this was like a 4v4 or 5v5, chaos would mask the emptiness, but with 3v3 on this massive map, feels less like a raid and more like a hiking simulator. But look, I could forgive the simple design, I could wait for the content updates. What I can't really forgive, and what I think justifies those negative reviews on Steam, is the performance. Let me be real with you. I'm running a Ryzen 5800 X3D and RTX 3080. Obviously, it's not the most high-end anymore, but it should be good enough for a free-to-play PvP game, and I just cannot hold 100 FPS in this game to save my life. Even with the DLSS on, it's dropping constantly. On top of the frame drops, the game looks incredibly blurry. No matter what settings I tweak, it looks like the render scale is stuck at 70%. It's pretty horrible. And here's the hard truth. You cannot launch a free-to-play competitive shooter in 2026 that is this unoptimized. This genre lives or dies on the back of the guy playing on a GTX 3060. If my 3080 is struggling to hit triple digits, the average player is going to play a slideshow. And obviously someone's gonna come in the comments and tell me that the game runs fine on their 5090. That's really not the point. If the mass market can run this game, it's dead. Period. So realistically, is Highguard worth your time right now? I would say no, at least not for me. It is pretty frustrating because I think the concept of raiding bases is pretty fun. Potential is there, but the good ideas don't matter if the technical state of the game alienates 90% of the player base on day one. My advice would be keep it on your wishlist, maybe check back in 6 months if the game is still alive. In its current state, that negative rating, it's harsh, but it's not wrong. But anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments what do you think about Highguard. Do you agree with my kind of statements around the game, or do you think I'm completely wrong? If you think this video is helpful, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, really helps me out. I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye bye.